On the surface, the Western Pacific looked calm. Waves rolled gently, and a sea breeze swept across the deck of a U.S. Navy destroyer. But inside the command center, things were far from calm. A strange signal suddenly lit up the radar. Red pulses reflected on the tense faces of sailors. Alarms echoed through the steel corridors. Boots pounded the deck. And within seconds, everyone knew something big was about to unfold. This wasn't just another day at sea. This was a test of nerves, pride, and power, two nations staring each other down. So why did an American warship appear in the Taiwan Strait on China's Navy Day? Why did it broadcast its position openly, almost daring Beijing to respond? And what happened when Chinese fighters swooped in for one of the most dangerous standoffs of the year? Let's break it down with Navy Secrets. Segment 1, The Move. On April 23, 2025, the USS William P. Lawrence, DDG-110, a guided missile destroyer, transited the Taiwan Strait. Now, that might sound routine, but the details prove it was anything but. First, the ship kept its AIS transponder switched on. In plain English, that meant anyone watching global tracking systems could see exactly where it was. Normally, warships go dark during sensitive operations. This time, Washington wanted the world to see. Second, the date. April 23rd isn't just any day. It's PLA Navy Day, when China celebrates its fleet with parades, speeches, and shows of force. And yet, on that exact day, a U.S. destroyer sailed through contested waters. Coincidence? Not a chance. This wasn't just navigation, it was a statement. A reminder that freedom of navigation is non-negotiable. And international analysts immediately picked up on the symbolism. Segment 2, Why the ship? The ship itself mattered too. The William P. Lawrence is an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer equipped with the Aegis combat system. It's powerful enough to defend itself, but smaller than a full carrier strike group. Why send this ship instead of a carrier? Simple, balance. It showed strength, without tipping into outright escalation. Washington wanted to make a point, but not start a war. At the same time, China had been intensifying military drills around Taiwan and demanding that foreign ships report when entering so-called Chinese waters. The U.S. chose the perfect moment to push back. The message to Beijing and to America's allies was crystal clear: we won't back down. Segment 3, China reacts. For Beijing, the timing cut deep. On the very day meant to honor its navy, a U.S. destroyer sailed straight through a sensitive strait. State media exploded with anger. Commentators called it a provocation. And within minutes, China responded. From a base just 85 kilometers away, two J-16 fighter jets scrambled into the air. These are some of the PLA's most advanced aircraft. And they weren't hiding. They wanted the world to see them shadowing the American warship. But here's where things got interesting. The jets weren't armed with anti-ship missiles. Instead, they carried air-to-air missiles, the PL-10 and PL-15. Why does that matter? It meant China wasn't planning to sink the destroyer. Instead, it was sending a message: we control not just the sea, but the sky above it. It was signaling dominance, without crossing the line into outright combat. Segment 4, The Tech Duel. Now here's where it gets intense. When those J-16s closed in, it wasn't just about intimidation. It was a silent technology duel. On the U.S. side, the Aegis combat system and its powerful Spy-1 radar, capable of tracking hundreds of targets at once over 250 miles. Every move the Chinese fighters made was instantly logged. On the Chinese side, their AESA, Ghost, radar, plus electronic warfare pods designed to jam or confuse U.S. systems. They were probing, testing, watching how quickly the Americans detected and tracked them. Neither side fired a shot, but both walked away with valuable intelligence. The U.S. gained data on Chinese radar signatures and flight tactics. China got a glimpse of how fast Aegis reacted. This wasn't just a standoff. It was data collection under extreme pressure. Segment 5, The Psychological War. But Beijing wasn't done. Soon, the encounter escalated into pure psychological warfare. One J-16 shot upward to 20,000 feet, then dove almost vertically toward the destroyer, leveling off just 150 meters above the sea. It was a mock attack run. A maneuver designed to terrify without firing a missile. Another pair of fighters executed a bracket maneuver, splitting wide and approaching from opposite sides. It forced the Americans to divide their radar attention, creating the illusion of being trapped. And then came the climax. One fighter skimmed the ocean at just 120 feet, roaring past the destroyer so close sailors could see its markings. Moments later, another jet blasted directly overhead at supersonic speed, creating a sonic boom that shook the entire ship. Imagine standing on deck, feeling the shockwave rattle steel walls, hearing equipment slam, thinking for a split second that an attack had begun. That was the effect. Pure intimidation. Segment 6, America's Restraint. But here's the most important part. Through all of this, the U.S. destroyer never fired. Not a single missile. Not a single defensive burst. The ship was fully armed. The CIWS Gatling gun, capable of firing 4,000 rounds per minute, was ready. Every turret was quietly tracking. One wrong move from a Chinese jet, and the Americans could have unleashed overwhelming firepower. But they didn't. Because discipline was the real weapon. The U.S. Navy's rules of engagement were clear. Don't take the bait. Don't give Beijing the propaganda victory of claiming the Americans fired first. Restraint here wasn't weakness, it was strength. And it sent a message just as powerful as any missile. We're ready, but we won't start the fight. Segment 7, the endgame. After nearly an hour of dangerous maneuvers, the standoff came to a close. The J-16s climbed away. A Chinese destroyer pulled back to a safer distance. Beijing had made its point. It showed it could encircle and pressure a U.S. warship on its Navy Day. State media framed it as a show of strength. But Washington made its point too. By holding firm and refusing to panic, the U.S. proved that American discipline and American technology would not be rattled. The world noticed. Allies in Tokyo, Seoul, and Manila saw not chaos, but calm professionalism under pressure. And that matters. The April 23rd encounter reminds us that in modern conflict, the fight doesn't always start with missiles. Sometimes, it starts in the mind. In psychology. In restraint. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the discipline to prevent war, when provocation is at its peak. That's the real Navy secret. If you found this breakdown useful, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others. Because the more we understand how fragile the line is between deterrence and escalation, the better chance we have at defending the future of peace.